Let's go to MSNBC's Alex Cabot in Passaic County, New Jersey. Also with us, former federal prosecutor Duncan Levin. Alex, lay out what's happening there where you are in New Jersey and the role these election monitors are actually playing.
Well, Anna, as you noted, the Department of Justice has sent election monitors to polling sites here in Passaic County at the behest of the New Jersey GOP. The NJGOP cites a rare incident of potential voter fraud from 2020 during a city council race here as the rationale for why they want these election monitors here keeping tabs at these polling sites. Now, my colleague Caitlin Proto and I, we've been to at least 4 different polling locations here in the county. So far, only 2 of them tell us that they've been visited by these election monitors, and they say these election monitors have been popping in, keeping tabs from afar, and popping out, not necessarily lingering. Now, I talked to one local Democratic voter who says that while the New Jersey GOP might claim they're sending these monitors to ensure election integrity, he's a little bit skeptical of those motivations. I want you to take a listen.
This is an important area for the country. There's a large demographic here, and New Jersey has historically kind of gone back and forth between a Republican leadership and Democratic leadership. If I'm nervous, I'm sending out people to keep an eye out on things as well.
So you think they're doing it because they're nervous about the outcome for Republicans?
Absolutely. I think if they had no reason to be nervous, they wouldn't be paying attention.
And Anna, it's been a tense morning here in Passaic County after polling sites here, 2 separate polling sites received bomb threats. Luckily, I visited each of those polling sites. The police have swept through them, ensured that everyone is safe, and voting has restarted at those 2 polling locations. Anna?
Alex, just to be clear, what's allowed today at these voting sites and what isn't as it pertains to these election monitors?
Well, Anna, these election monitors are allowed to observe from afar, to keep tabs on the ongoings, on the proceedings at these polling sites, but they're not allowed to talk to the voters or in any way intimidate the voters. And Anna, from the polling locations that I visited so far this morning, the polling workers have told me that the election monitors have been adhering to those rules.
Alex Cabot, thank you. Please keep us posted. Duncan, it's this 1 district in New Jersey and then 5 in California, as we mentioned, where these federal election monitors are going. Is that how it always works? If a, party says, come to my district, I want, an election monitor, they're automatically sent?
Well, it's how it sometimes works, but what's unusual about this particular instance is that these aren't federal elections. These are just state elections. And so the Department of Justice has the legal authority under the Voting Rights Act of 1965 to send these monitors in, and often they're done at the behest of one of the parties. But what's unusual about this is that these are very largely Democratic-leaning counties, particularly in California. The one in Passaic County in New Jersey, Trump flipped over to his side, but it's generally gone for the Democrats. And there's a tight gubernatorial race right now. And so what's unusual is that the DOJ is stepping in here where there's really not a lot of clear federal authority for them to go in. There's jurisdiction. They're allowed to do it. But the question is, why are they doing it and why are they being asked to do it?
Yeah, I spoke with the attorney general there in California earlier this week, and that state's now sending state monitors to monitor the federal election monitors. Here's AG Bonta discussing some of his concerns about the DOJ's moves here.
This is very partisan, and I don't think they have concern about whatever the Republican Party stated, but they want to come to set the groundwork that there is some sort of widespread voter fraud when there's been absolutely no data for that. So I worry about what they might use this moment to do, what they might suggest, what flags they might raise that have no basis in fact.
Let's bring in a pair now of MSNBC political analysts, Democratic strategist Basil Smikle and Republican strategist Susan Del Percio. Basil, what's on the line for Democrats today, and which race do you think of as the bellwether?
Yeah, so the first question, what's on the line, I think it is this question of not only how Democrats are going to fight back against Donald Trump, but what is the future of the party going to look like? And it's really important. I do think that the Jersey race is going to be a lot closer than the Virginia race. But
And is
I
it
actually,
because of the candidates,
I think it's partly because
of the voters,
partly because of the candidates, partly because of the state. Because I actually think New Jersey's becoming a bit more purple. But I also think that, you know, with Virginia, as was mentioned earlier, you have a lot of voters who are directly affected by the shutdown and the goings on in Washington, D.C. So I think a lot of those votes are a referendum on that very specific issue. But the New York race I look at, because as a born and raised New Yorker, this race between Mamdani, Cuomo, and Sliwa actually has, in my view, the ability to polarize the city in a way that I had not seen before. You know, we were talking beforehand about what our bet is for the actual outcome. But in many ways, I do think that this race does speak a lot to what the future of the Democratic coalition is going to look like. I do think for that reason, it's kind of a change election because it will dramatically reframe the Democratic coalition.
Susan, zooming out again, what do you think is on the line for the Republican Party today, and which is the key test of these races we're discussing?
The key test is probably New Jersey, because I'm looking to see if Donald Trump, who came within 6 points in his second election to office,
he made big inroads.
He made big inroads. He was compared to being down 15%. So what I'm looking for is to see if that Trump coalition still exists, especially with Hispanics and men. How does that start? Does it shift? It's also important to recognize in all of the 3 races we talked about, there is no incumbent. So there is something to say for candidate recruitment and candidate, you know, who's on the ballot and how they got there. So I think that's important. In Virginia, it is a lot about the shutdown. We're going to see, you know, some of the exit polling, why they did it. But again, it's someone, and I'm going to make this leap to New York in a second. When you look at the lieutenant governor who's saying, let's keep it going. Do they really want to keep it going, or do people want to change?
There's tons of federal workers there in Virginia.
Exactly.
So that's why the shutdown.
And when you look at New York, I mean, I'll make the argument that, I mean, I'm no fan.
By the way, Cuomo is voting right now here in New York, speaking about this
Which
contest.
I think is the second time he probably voted in New York City. But that's not here or there. Putting that aside. I think what you saw was a rejection of establishment of people saying, you know, about Andrew Cuomo, like we had enough of those people who claim that they know how to run government. They don't feel that government's working for them. So even, you know, and that plays out in Virginia. If you think that the government's not working for you because you've been affected by the shutdown, you're not voting for another 4 years of it. And in New York, you're saying, all of you, everyone, I'm sick of it. My city isn't, you know, I'm not doing well in my city. And a lot of people think that Mamdani can change that, if nothing else, by the rhetoric alone. But the test for Mamdani, I think this is where it's going to be the most challenging going forward for Democrats versus the governors. All 3.
You're seeing Trump lash out because the results are going bad. He's already doing what he does every election. Except this time it's kicked into overdrive because the data he's seeing shows he's losing. So he's going to start sending his thugs everywhere. And I know a lot of these people are legitimate public servants, but he's still sending them in with the desire to dig up some conspiracy in states and areas where he's probably going to lose. Then he can either try to invalidate the results or, at the very least, use that as an excuse so Republicans don't blame him. Even if nothing comes of his election denial this time, the main goal, the immediate goal for Trump is to claim something shady happened so that everyone believes there's nothing to learn from this result and it's not his fault. It's actually the secret forces that run society, wink, wink. And you know, that often leads to awful theories about certain ethnic groups. Donald would rather say that than admit, you know what? I took a bit of a beating in these midterm elections. My party lost. If I look at the data, I'm one of the reasons why. I'm not the only reason, but I'm one of them. So I need to change how I operate as president. And if I do, maybe we'll see better results in the future. That's what a normal president would do. But not Donald. He's going to make up any conspiracy and use his totalitarian fantasies to try to crush the election results. rather than acknowledge and learn from them.